So Jen Psaki got asked about this because Joe Biden was very critical of President Trump during the campaign, and then you had people using the word treason to describe President Trump's actions or inaction when supposedly when involved this story about bounties on U.S. troops put in place by Russia, which at the time raised a lot of questions like, what time frame were they talking about? Is this modern? Were we talking about the beginning of a war that's been going on for 20 years? Who was president when this actually occurred? Is this still going on? Now we find out it was a guy who was imprisoned by the Afghans who were fighting with us, not by U.S. troops, who sung this tune to the Afghans, and the intel community has never been able to confirm this. So Jen Psaki got asked about it, had to respond, and she did a typical Jen Psaki dance around it.
Does the president have any regrets for how many times he attacked President Trump on the campaign about this issue?
There are several factors that contributed to the low to moderate confidence in the judgment, including the difficulty of the operating environment and, of course, the reliance on detainee reporting. At the same time, we still feel there are questions to be answered by the Russian government.
Okay, I'm going to say something because I'm going to break this thing down. First of all, she's never answers the question, of course, and that was the reporter's question was the attack that President Trump about this a lot. Does the president have any regrets for that? She doesn't say, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that, or no, we still think. She says instead there are several factors that contribute to the low to moderate confidence in the judgment. Then skip a couple, including reliance on detainee reporting, someone trying to get out of a jail. I mean, Andy, you're a prosecutor. I mean, that's not a really helpful admission, a jailhouse confession.
Jay, I have prosecuted a lot of cases, or turned down the prosecution of a lot of cases, where the only evidence that I had was the jailhouse snitch who came in and said, I heard Joe say that he did it and he hid the gun in the chicken house behind the farm where he killed his mother. And so, well, tell me more about it. Well, he said it. Is the gun there? Well, no, he's not there now, but he told us it was. Now, am I going to go to court on the evidence of a jailhouse snitch who says the defendant told him that the gun was hidden behind the chicken house without going to check out where the gun was?
Yeah.
This is nonsense. This is jailhouse detainees and jailhouse snitches are notoriously unworthy of any belief. And yet the United States government takes this and runs with it and slams President Trump needlessly with it, senselessly with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rick, they wanted the president to confront Putin on this.
It's really unbelievable. She didn't answer the question. She stuttered. She didn't really know how to respond, so she dropped back, and then I think that she revealed something that they didn't reveal before. She called it low to moderate information, and that's not what they said last year. That's not what they said during the campaign. They went with it and literally called it fact. And so now they're walking it back, and then they do the same old thing, which they always do on Russia, which is Russia has a lot of questions to answer. And so it's this Chinese line. This is what what Beijing wants the Democrats to do, is to focus on Russia, to get all of America and the American media to focus on Russia. Meanwhile, there is a crisis going on with China. We have to be able to do both. Again, Russia's a problem. China is a crisis.
Yeah, I think that this is the thing. Russia, I mean, no one is trying to defend, Rick, actions by Russia. Right now, they're mounting more troops up on the border, though I will say they tend to take that action under the Obama-Biden world, and they weren't taking that kind of action under the 4 years of President Trump. So now they're going to go back in and, who knows, try and invade different parts of Ukraine. They're talking about storing nuclear weapons there. And yet, where we're supposed to be taken on this is the election interference by Russia in 2020. In an election where, Joe Biden's in the White House, and yet that's where the sanctions are, not on the fact that Russia's about to invade a sovereign country again.
It's, one of those things that when you look at all of the problems that we're having with Russia, Ukraine, Europe, NATO, there's so much to concentrate on. And yet we get this distraction strategy from the Biden team where they want to go back and talk about, what the Russian propaganda machine is doing in elections. And then you get all of these people, spun up. Daniel Goldman, the Adam Schiff lawyer who was king conspiracy theory pusher, is suddenly out there with a new conspiracy on Russia and saying, well, what about this? It's this distraction mentality. Well, they're missing the buildup of Russian troops. We already know that it was the Obama-Biden strategy to allow Crimea. The Ukrainians know that. The Europeans know that. They know that this is a weak administration. The Germans don't have to pay their fair share to NATO. They get to continue buying Russian gas while the Russians are doing a buildup in Europe. It's so outrageous, and yet we have an entire media that just falls for the Jen Psaki stuttering and not being able to answer the question and then giving us some sort of distraction again. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, she didn't want to answer the question because she can't answer the question. Now, my question, Than, is really in Washington, what are the senators that are speaking out going to do about this? Because talk is one thing, but action's something else.
I agree with that, Jay. I mean, so far you've seen Tom Cotton draw the comparison to propping up the 2016 collusion theory leading up to the 2020 election. But I would piggyback on what Rick just said. They need to move from just calling it a political agenda or a distraction and point out how dangerous this is, Jay. I mean, all of us have talked about how Russia's not a friend, how Russia's a bad actor. But look, when you run with low confidence intel, what does that do? It pulls resources, it pulls attention away from high confidence intel threats. Rick mentioned China. There are certainly others. This is not just a freebie. This is not just a political issue. You're talking about dangerous threats to the United States. And I want to see U.S. senators pivot from distraction to talking about the dangerous threats that are going unaddressed because we're focusing on this.
Well, to me, Rick, I mean, kind of just as we got about a minute left here, to me, the danger of this is that if the media knows, okay, we can put this story out, and then 9 months later, maybe it comes out to be not true, but we got what we wanted in the election. We got to smear the person we wanted to smear, and they're not being they're not being taken off of Twitter. They're not being shut down. They're not being canceled. Their Twitter account's still active. They're not being taken off Facebook or YouTube or anything like that. It kind of just gives them more of a reason to keep it up. Keep it up. Whatever kind of intel leaks they can use against the political party they don't like or politician they don't like, keep it up. And if it comes back that it wasn't true, oh, so what? No consequences.
Well, look, I think ACLJ Twitter account should repost that damaging Daily Caller video, which shows the media last year hyping this story. And senators need to take action. They need to ask Twitter to take all of those tweets and put a warning label on them that they're not true. We need to start demanding from Congress that big tech play fair.
Yep, absolutely. Rick, we appreciate it as always. It's a hot-breaking topic and important one. And you're right. I mean, Russia's a problem. China is a problem at a whole different dimension.